Good afternoon. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at TPLab.com. Welcome to today's recap. The day after the big presidential address to the Joint Congress that went over pretty well, I would say. You know, even people who just want to bash, the president or really not like him, they kind of agreed that he did give a strong speech and covered a lot of great themes. And some are like, oh, well, he read the teleprompter, but you know what? If that's his staff that read that wrote it for him, that's what you do. As a good CEO, you have great management to help the CEO and then lower management, etc. So hopefully the president surrounded himself with smart guys that'll help him make better decisions. Whatever it is, market responded well. We gapped up about 10, 12 handles when we were in here this morning. Said you could do 2 or 3 things here. Okay, first of all, if you came in short, you better be careful if we get above 2371 and stay above, because we can go to 2400. If you came in flat, we get above and stay above, you can find a way to responsibly get long, and figure out how to participate, because you don't take risk into binary events. So there were definitely some things to do, and it wasn't that easy. If you're long term and you've been sitting in stocks, congratulations. If you bought 10% of my 12 names I had for my 2017 report, you probably made more money this year than you made in years past. I almost wish that I just left for 2 months, put all my trading account into my 12 names and didn't actively trade and do this every day, but then I wouldn't be here for you guys. But anyway, it's all well and good. Everyone has their process, and but you just don't want to harp on the past, and you want to look towards the future. And if you look here at the S&P cash, what a move. Now here was pre-election sell-off, then your snapback, and then this is when Donald Trump was elected. And then this is when we got very bullish, right here. Why did we get bullish? Not because we thought he would do an unbelievable job, but whatever. Anyway, it cleared this, held this, and then your trend started. Right here was a refresher breakout. Right here, consolidated for a long time. Quick move, got negated, and then went again. Last time we had a clean breakout, it was above 2300. And then since then, 3-day pullback into the 8-day. Here was a 5-day pullback into the 8-day, and now we have a big gap up to go. Some bears have been, saying this isn't going to end well for a long time, and you know what? That's not a process. Some other guys are saying, hey, they're going to do an island reversal tomorrow, gap up, closing the highs, and then gap down tomorrow and trap everybody. But, you can't think that way. You have to go with what the price action's doing. And as of right now, there are definitely some things to do and some ways to be responsible. If you came in short today, early on, once we were above, 237.50 for a little bit, you had some time to cover, or 238 even. Could have saved yourself 2 points, or could have saved yourself at least shorting more, and then maybe covering into the close because you can't handle it. A lot of people did that with that sell of the inauguration. Remember we talked about, it might not be that easy if you go to the S&P cash to just, sell the inauguration, which everyone was saying. You know what that was? Selling the inauguration was in here, okay? And if you sold the inauguration and you didn't cover, you know what? You blew yourself up. Either that or you probably lost your marbles because you've been wishing for bad news for a month and a half, and whatever it is, you haven't been doing well. If you said, okay, I'm going to sell the inauguration and get stopped out, okay, then maybe even here you got stopped out. But same thing for now. All of a sudden we have a big gap up. We have this to trade against now, 238.37. That's our only point of reference with a big gap. Some people think you always have to fill a gap. Well, you know what? We had 3 gaps in here that didn't get filled. You had a gap here, went sideways and filled it. So you can't just think that gaps can get filled. Look at this gap, but that's obviously, a different gap from a different area. So at this point, it doesn't seem as if it's an exhaustion gap yet. Seems pretty, pretty okay. Pretty okay. All right, sounds like another word made up. But anyway, we'll see if we get some more follow through tomorrow, or we'll see if we digest inside and we can play some individual stocks. XLE on Fox Business. Some of you guys are saying, hey, good call, good call. They said, what name do you, if you had to be long name into Trump, it would be the XLE. Why? Because, it was trading versus support. Figured maybe that they could, play a little catch up. I did not take it long into the binary event. I bought it this morning, and you had more than enough time to do it around 72.10 and still do okay. Now it's into this descending trend line, so maybe it goes sideways and then plays a little catch up to the upside. It's been a big laggard, but we'll see now. Maybe it changed. Remember when we pointed out the change in the IBB, but that was a little bit more potent. The change in the IBB happened here, the day that he met with all the CEOs, and we claimed all the moving averages. Then you had lots of different trades. Here was one breakout trade, then your retest. Here it cleared 290.10. Now it's working its way and finally cleared 300. So, this laggard trade turned into a good vehicle for a good month and a half. It was not a good vehicle for most of the past 2 years. But here in this little spot, as a trader, you could have made a heck of a lot of money. And who knows, maybe even goes up to 320. So all I'm trying to say, XLE has not been a good vehicle, but if you look at it like this, maybe it could turn into a decent vehicle, for the next week to 3 weeks if it wants to play some catch up. The place that the money's been is in the Qs, right? Woo! Look at that move. Qs have been above the 8-day moving average for the entire year. Okay, do you short something above the 8-day moving average? No. Maybe you sell some if it's extended, or you try a cute short if it's really extended, okay. But this has been above the 8-day moving average and the 21 the entire year. What does Red Dog say? Do not short situations above the 8 and 21 day. They're strong. Some people I talked to, I can't believe they've been shorting tech, and they've been shorting and shorting, and they've been blown out of the water, or they hate life. You know what? There's a chart I posted on Twitter showing you how quick these bear markets are. Why wish for a bear market when you could be involved in a bull market that usually goes a hell of a lot longer and usually wins if you have a process. But anyway, here's the Qs. This is your spot, 130.60. If you were short, you actually had a little bit of time to cover when it took this out. 130.70 was your pivot. Why was it your pivot? It was a prior high. Figured if you were short versus this, you had to cover. If you're going to roll it up again, look at the last time when someone said, hey, I'm short versus here, and then all of a sudden got above and said, hey, I'll roll it out, and then that's happened. So you don't want to be that guy. Let's move on. The small caps, I talked about the small caps in the video. I said, you know what, a lot of shorts are probably trapped in that from overnight. It closed in the lows, giving people, that was like the bait into trying to have traders lean short into the event. Some of you guys that did that, you know what, it looked as if, there was a chance for it to happen, but that's what the small caps have been doing. So today, you could have switched a little bit also. This was yesterday. It didn't look like much, right? But that's kind of the same thing that happened here. Remember, after this big range, it looked like it was going to break below the range. What did it do? Came down to the bottom end and then wider range bar, got above it, and then worked its way to highs. Here, looked as if it was going to break the range, okay, and then now you're up here. So how could you have maneuvered this? As soon as it got above this pre-market, I guess in the beginning of the day, 139.50, you could have covered. And then you would have saved yourself $1 or so. And now, it's right at the highs here. I would think that this explosive move to the upside and this big consolidation would lead to higher prices. I've been talking about 142 as your measured move for a while, and I am long this, and it'd be nice to get a little follow through tomorrow. We shall see. In Stockland, it was hard to find the right names to go after. In the first half an hour, what I did is I went after Apple. Why did I go after Apple? A 4-day consolidation, right by the all-time highs. Got an upgrade. I figured if it gets above the all-time high and holds above it, I could be long it with limited risk, or at least defined risk, and look what Apple did. If you've been long Apple since my 2017 report, congratulations, you've done awesome. If you've been long Apple since after earnings, because you don't like to take stuff into earnings and say I'm going to buy it versus gap, boom. If you said, here, I'm going to short here because gaps have to get filled, you've been not liking Apple, or at least in pain, or whatever you've been doing. Anyway, this was your prior high here. So, if in my morning note, I'm like, if it gets above and stays above 137.48, we could tack on gains towards my price of 142 to 144. Doesn't have to happen by tomorrow, but bigger move than I thought. If you go to the 5-minute, you could see how it was defined. And if you're on the VTF, you saw me execute. Okay, first of all, so this was your gap up, okay, pulled in a little bit above the prior high. Right on here when it turned up, I said, hey, I'm buying Apple versus the morning gap. It's defined, 137.60. And then I actually bought a lot more when it took out this 138. Why did I buy 138? That was the high of the opening 5-minute candle. Bought more, held some, sold some, and then into this, I think I was out. I was out into this like 139 and change. Then in the end of the day, it pulled back a little bit, so I bought a little bit just to, stay with it and get back in rhythm, because I lost rhythm of Apple for a little bit. When did I lose rhythm in Apple? I lost rhythm in Apple right around here. I think I bought here, added here. I think I sold somewhere around here, so I missed this part of the move, but who cares? Today it wound up working out well. Facebook closed at all-time highs. Maybe it opens up with the Snap IPO tomorrow. I don't short things at all-time highs. Usually you buy them for a little momentum. That hasn't happened here. It was a little difficult. Here was a little difficult. Let's hope tomorrow isn't as difficult. So I am long a little Facebook overnight. Google's been acting better. Why is it acting better? Because it pulled in held the 21-day, and then cleared this bull flag, and now it seems as if, you know, the next target is going to be this area. They're talking about charging for YouTube, which is huge, okay? Last time they didn't have enough power to get above this. Maybe this time it starts to move. I'm in small to get back in a rhythm with Google. I almost bought Amazon, but I didn't. You know, it looks kind of the same, but it's you know, not as you know, very small little candles. So sometimes people would think that this is like an ascending channel here that could break to the downside, or it could just be that not a hell of a lot of a FOMO right now. But you know, here is that all-time high. We'll see what happens closer to this spot. BABA, I don't understand what's holding it back, but that's what BABA likes to do. Likes to get as many people as frustrated as possible, so no one really hangs along. Look how many lower lows this thing had to make, you know, before it finally broke above this descending trend line here. Okay, so people started trying here, no, here, no, here, no. Finally, it went. So now this is your post-earnings gap up and into here. Didn't show power, but it seems as if, you know, at some point it's going to get above it. Still above the 21-day, above the 8-day. I'm long small just so I could be in rhythm. You know, so if it goes above this 105 and I see volume, I could add to it, and then hopefully gets back up towards these highs. So unfortunately, you know, I got out of a lot of these things last Thursday when I told you guys I did, and you saw it on the VTF, but there was some things to do on Friday. Remember Friday we bought the NVIDIA into the 94.96. That was a good, you know, cash flow trade that could have made your day. Then yesterday, you know, we played Tesla, bought it in the hole, so it didn't have to be long 4 or 5 positions to make money. You know, all you needed was a good setup, and this was a nice setup right here. Went into here, and then boom, you know, traded above the high. And what did we say today? It can go towards these moving averages, and actually showed a little relative weakness. So that was your, you know, tactical move here. So now we'll see if there's, you know, maybe it goes sideways to continue, maybe it doesn't. But that was your oversold bounce trade into the 50-day. Now we'll see if this is a lower high to go lower, or maybe we get a red dog reversal tomorrow around this 250-ish. We shall see. But all in all, that was a great cash flow trade, not having to be involved for, you know, major risk into yesterday for that. NVIDIA, we'll see what happens here. That was Friday. So, you know, as long as you keep coming up with ideas, you know, you can make money. Just, you know, you're hitting singles, you're not hitting doubles and triples. This is now nice and sideways. We'll see if this holds here and breaks above it to act a little bit better. Still, you know, still has a lot to prove, has to reclaim this. But all in all, you know, some things to do. This was a nice buy. A lot of guys bought it into here. Now it's going a little sideways. Obviously, it's not leading the tape, but maybe there's a trade there tomorrow. If you don't want to be long today, or, you know, you don't want to have some overnights, at least you can look for setups if you don't want the risk. I am long Microsoft also. First day that it actually cleaned out some, you know, some resistance. Here was earnings, and it came in, you know, after earnings, after having a solid report. Now, first wide range bar, I think, in a while. So maybe it works its way back if people need to put some money to work. If, you know, this has been in a strong trend, acting okay. So just trying to look for things to do kind of from the long side, which has been the trend, that's not super extended, that kind of is tight and maybe could expand without that much risk. What else? That's about it. You know, TLTs, those of you who don't follow me on the VTF, you probably made more money than I did because you didn't know that I covered it yesterday. You could have stayed short, which I didn't stay short, and it was a heck of a move to the downside. You know, Bank of America, you know, look at that move. We talked all year how it's going to get to 28 to 32 this year, and if you're in it still, congratulations. Why did I say 28 to 32 in my 2017 report? Because, you know, look at the size of this, like multi-year channel, which it got above, and then the next, you know, real big congestion is in this 28 to 32 range. You know, remember we had that nice trade there when Yellen got hawkish. So anyway, if you were long some banks and you've still been just sitting in them and, you know, you're trading them for the year, congratulations. If you got long yesterday saying, hey, look at the relative strength in Bank of America right near highs, well, you know, I don't care what Trump has to say, then you did well too. Now, if you're trying to, you know, actively approach it, you'll see how long it has to stay above this gap, which is, you know, 25.22 to perhaps continue. And that's, you know, your story here with Bank of America. Been a good vehicle for a lot of you guys. I remember the day, if you Google it, when I, you know, was on Bloomberg and I was like, buy the banks, and everyone laughed at me, and Bank of America was $8. And then we've been pretty much, you know, pretty much from the longish side, at least constructive on it since then. That was at 8, now it's at, you know, 25. So lots of ways to skin a market. Get it? It's going to catch. Well, woohoo! It's been that type of day. So At this point, you know what, as a trader, you know, these big 300-point days aren't typically the best money-making days for us. You know, they're actually kind of depressing because guys who have been trying to be long or been long for multiple months, you think about how many shares you had a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you think about how many positions you had, and you think about what you could have done better. So if that's you right now, just chillax. You know, go have a drink, go run a marathon, or release some stress, and, you know, just approach the next day, you know, a little bit, you know, smaller, and start making money again. The past is the past. Realize maybe how you did it, what you did wrong, and if you did anything wrong. You know, if you didn't go home long anything into last night, you really didn't do anything wrong. As an active trader, we could have been down 300 points. But if you went, you know, home short, you know, and you cost averaged up the whole day, you did something wrong. In my humble opinion, you know, if you came in flat and you shorted the open, said it's going to be a gapping crap, and then it didn't go down and you shorted all day, you did something wrong. If you know, waited for the open and had a 5, 15, 30-minute low, bought against it, had it calculated, you know, surgically made some money. That's all you could do in a day like today is surgically make money. You know, unless you were in things for a while, there was bigger money to be made. But I got to give, actually, I'll give Amy some props. You know, she was in Kite, you know, when the news happened, you know, she kind of knew what was going on there. It was big news, so sometimes it's good to know what's going on. You know, beforehand, it went early, and then today, he could have even, it was down a little bit, could have bought it through the prior high, and now that's a huge 2-day move in a name that was semi-broken, that just went back to life. Okay, so good for, you know, people on the VTF. Technically, all of a sudden, boom. You could have been down and out saying, oh, I've been trying to buy, I've been trying to buy, and all of a sudden, oh my God, look at the news, I know what that means. Let me stay long, or let me take home a third, and then buy it back when it goes above the prior day's high, and look at that. You know, or you could have said, hey, look, you know, Kite and Juno used to move together. Let me see if there's a trade in Juno, okay, which I talked about on the VTF. Didn't have the news, but, you know, a little tradable strategy. Why is it a tradable strategy? There's a big gap there. You would think that if people are short it, they'd get a little worried, and some guys bought it today, bought more, and, you know, maybe a long going into tomorrow. So lots of different ways to tactically find cash flow opportunities as a prop trader. There are lots of ways to take advantage of a market that's up 300 points, that's been up huge since an election, by having a long-term, you know, long-term account like a 401k or a 403b or a 529. I talk about that every single year. You know, even if you want to start, you're like, oh, I don't want to start here because I think I'm going to go lower. Who cares? Put in monthly flows. If we happen to go down, you know, we're correct in 2 months from now or in a week from now or tomorrow, it doesn't matter because you're cost averaging, and if you're 30 years old, you're doing it until you're 65. If you're starting at 529 for your kid who's 2, you have 16 years till college. If you're 75, I wouldn't be starting a 401k now. Or if you had a 401k that's fully invested, maybe you go from 80% invested or 90% to 40% if you're going to live off that the rest of your life and you're very happy with the way your statements are. So it's all about where you're situated. Got to go. See you in the morning. Have a good night.